students and their social and emotional selves and how well they're doing here and how we can best support them. You have an awesome team of people in the PTSA who are working with you and all of us in partnership to make sure that we keep our students safe and we keep them on the right path. I do not want to take too much time because it's a full program. It's an excellent program. And so I just want to begin by introducing our PTSA president, Ms. Wendy Weldon.
Coming out tonight, we appreciate it. The reason why the PTSA called these meetings mandatory, there were meetings put on by the county last year, in November, and only 7 or 8 parents showed up. So it's really important that we all get on board, that we all get educated, that we all know what we're facing with our kids, because we love our kids. And because we don't want to lose one single child, because we're all connected, we're a part of the community. So it's not just a school issue, a community issue, a family issue, this is our issue, so we're here to solve it, okay folks? And it's going to take everyone to be really strong about it and to follow through. And a couple of things that were mentioned last night that I wanted to address just before we start. You may be wondering where kids get the money to do this stuff that we're going to see tonight. Gift cards, they trade drugs for sex. Sometimes they meet out in front of the Giant across the street because it's vacant now. So there's not a lot of supervision out there because it's not school property, it's private property. And they do things before school, and sometimes they'll trickle into the school. Also at Travilla, at the Burger King parking lot, that happens a lot. And I talked to the manager at CVS on Key West and Darsown Road. That's a lot of activity. So it's wherever there's a party, there's drugs and alcohol. Whether or not you see it, it's there. It just looks different from when we were young. Things have become an epidemic in Montgomery County and across the country. So if you've seen it on the news, you've probably heard about the stuff going on up county in Damascus, which is horrendous for one graduating class in particular. And also in Thurmont, I heard 6 young people were dead from heroin overdose. But you don't really hear about it in the news. I'm not sure why, because it's our issue. But without further ado, Judy Casey's worked really hard on this. She's the vice president of the PTSA, and Rachel Boxman, and they're 2 just outstanding people to put this together tonight. So thank you, folks. Here's Rachel Boxman. Thank you.
I want to first start by saying thank you, parents, for coming out tonight. This is a very important step that you're taking to educate yourself about what's going on. And educating yourself ultimately helps our community. And before I get started, I know we want to go through all these accolades. You have to understand that having these kinds of meetings with parents does not happen in this county usually. They're held, not a lot of people show up. There's a lot of agencies that try to hold these meetings, and a lot of times there's not, most of the time, the majority of the time, there's not a lot of people who show. And I want to tell you, and I'd like you to consider how fabulous the leadership is of the PTSA for understanding the importance of this topic and making it one of their primary agenda items for this year. They've allocated a tremendous amount of their budget to providing these beautiful materials, and they really push this issue with the administration, and we are blessed that our administrators heard what was said and endorsed this. So we're at a good place. We have strong leadership in our PTA and in our administration, and really they deserve a humongous round of applause for bringing this program here. Okay, so before I start, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Rachel Boxman, and I am a parent here at Wooten. I have a daughter actually in 10th grade, and I also have a daughter in 5th grade. And I have a fabulous husband I've been married to for, I think, 22 years, 23. And we've lived in the Wooten community for most of this time. And I have a master's in public health from Johns Hopkins. And for the majority of my career, about 15 years, I worked on pharmaceutical studies, which is overseeing research of investigational medications for mostly psychiatric disorders or illnesses such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder, ADHD. And through my work, I was able to attend a lot of trainings and learn a lot about these disorders as well as just behavior in general, data collection and data, analyzing data, etc. And it was a fabulous run. And but in 2011, I switched gears. And now I work voluntarily for the partnership at drugfree.org. The partnership is a nonprofit organization that's out of New York City. They are a very prolific organization across the country in helping teens stay substance free. That's their goal and their mission. And they work with the best trained scientists from around the country in prevention research, treatment research, and recovery research. And as a parent partner, I work with about 50 other parents around the country, and the organization provides us lots of information, training, we meet every 2 weeks, we have Facebook chats every day, so I always know what's going on in this field. And as a result, I can come and bring this information to you. So, why did I lose my paycheck? And why did I lose my job? And why am I doing this now as a volunteer? And the reason why I'm doing this now is because of a personal experience. And I'd like to share this experience with you because it changed how I look at typical teenage behavior, and it possibly changed yours as well. I'd like you to meet two very important people in my life. Oops, going the wrong way. I think this is your left. This is my nephew, Justin. There's Justin in his senior football picture. Justin's from New Jersey. There's Justin, who's captain of the football team. He is an acclaimed athlete. He won awards statewide for weightlifting. He was an all-county football player and in several other sports as well. He liked to write music, lyrics. He had a humongous personality, 1,000 friends, Mr. Popularity, and he was absolutely, he lit up the room. He just had an incredible presence and was very dear. And then on the other side, we have Bobby, blonde Bobby, another nephew from Texas. Bobby, this is Bobby here at a family function, his sister sitting in the back, in the corner. Bobby also so very dear. Bobby, very different from Justin, although same family, external, extended family. Bobby was brilliant. This is a kid who was an acclaimed academic, almost perfect SAT score, and we're talking like 800 and 780 in math and science, and advanced SATs, 800, chemistry, advanced math. He was on his way to study medicine, and that was what he decided he wanted to do at an Ivy League school. Huge personality, great sense of humor. Bobby really just cracked me up, and very witty. In 2011, July 2011, we received a phone call that Justin was found dead in a hotel room in New Jersey. Cause of death, a combination of alcohol, cocaine, and heroin. This happened just 5 days after we spent the 4th of July with him and his family playing wiffle ball, hanging out in the pool in the backyard. It was a magical weekend. How did this happen? How is this possible? It felt impossible. And while we were wading through our unbearable grief, because he was just 21 years old. 3 months later, in October, the same year, 2011, down in Texas, Bobby comes forward and he says he has a problem. He's addicted to opiates. So, in complete disbelief, we take him to go get an evaluation. The counselor spent the majority of the day with him, and she reported to us that he was so far down the addiction path that he needed residential treatment at the very least 30 days. Probably not nearly enough. Reconciling that was impossible because you have this fabulous, tremendous kid who is so much fun and likes to bake cookies and has a job and is so witty and is so, I can't use the word but delicious. He's so much fun to be with. How is this possible? I know this kid. I know him well. We signed the papers, and 8 o'clock that evening, we left the intake facility. He was ready to go. Insurance was on board. He was going to check in at 8 a.m. the next morning, just 12 hours later, to a residential facility. We went out to dinner. We went to Walmart to get a few things. We came home. We got him packed. On the way home from Walmart, he said, "How am I ever going to love anything more than I love my drugs?" Those are the words of an addict. Those are the words of a very sick person, a person we do not know. We said, "Oh, you're going to love your children. You don't even know what it's like to love a child. It's unbelievable. You haven't even experienced that yet. You're just starting." But Bobby won't get a chance. He won't get a chance to know what it's like to love a child. Because Bobby took his life that night in the bedroom next to mine. He overdosed. He left a note. What we thought, these kids are so fabulous. And yeah, maybe they're drinking a little beer. Maybe they're smoking a little pot. They're great kids. We did it, right? That's what was going on when we were there in high school. Folks, I am here to tell you tonight that that is not the case anymore. What you might consider as typical teen behavior in today's day and age is actually very, very dangerous. And I'm going to tell you why. The purpose of today's presentation here is really just to have a discussion. We don't have enough time to go through all of the facts about drug abuse and all the different drugs that are being used out there today. We'll highlight some of the ones that are new, that you might not have heard of, and we'll go over them briefly. But really the purpose today is to open a dialogue, is to make this a safe topic to talk about. because there's a lot of people in the community that are suffering, and they suffer in shame, and they don't reach out for help, and there's a lot of people dying. I don't know, does anybody know, tell me by the raise of hands, how many people know that we have a prescription drug epidemic going on in our country right now? Okay, good, people are watching the news, that's awesome. This is real, and it's in Montgomery County. And to think that it's not here because we live in an affluent area where we have good schools is hogwash. It's absolutely here. So we need to talk to each other. We need to share our experiences and keep a dialogue going. We can't have our head in the sand. So this is the start of many more discussions, activities, all in the name of the fact that we love our children and we want to keep them safe. If you can't stay awake during this presentation, there's a few things that I want you to go home with tonight. So I'm going to tell them to you right now, and then you can go to sleep if you like. But the first takeaway is that times have changed. You can't use your experience as a teenager and the perception that you have of that time and use that as a guide for your teen. Times are totally different. What you might think as typical teen behavior, beer party, pod, it's not typical teen behavior. It doesn't exist anymore, and it could be a pathway to very, very dangerous substance use and a very ugly outcome. Substance use is everyone's problem. There is no typical substance abuser today. Perhaps when we were young, substance abuse looked, people dressed in black when they were at the end of the hall and they, wore their hair a certain way. Not today. People who are substance abusers look like every single person in this room. There is nothing that differentiates them, not by socioeconomic status, not by academic success, not by race. It's everyone's problem. Please do not think this does not apply to you. You can sit there and check your phone and go, this is good, this is not going to be my kid. I'm telling you, it can be your kid. How many people made stupid choices when they were in high school? We all did. But today, a stupid choice, a bad choice, a poor decision can be lethal. Great kids make bad choices. We're one of them, right? And of course, you have to talk to your children about this topic. You must talk to them. You must have an ongoing dialogue with them. 5 key messages from tonight. Okay, so for this evening, I'm going to go through an overview of today's drug and alcohol scene, very high level, and then I'm also going to talk about a drug ladder. And what that means is, how does drug use progress? How do you go from using a little bit to going to the harder substances? What you can do as a parent. And then we will hear from Montgomery County law officer who will talk about posting laws, and we'll have a question and answer session. I have to make a mention though, before we start to dig into our agenda, that one thing that we did not know before when we were teens is about brain development. We now know that the brain takes years to fully develop. It's not fully developed until the age of 25. So when teens are using substances, it's actually affecting their brain development. It can have very long-lasting or permanent changes. Sometimes use will delay development. And you have to wait till you're 35 in order to have the brain of a 25-year-old. You probably can think of people you know right now and go, oh, I get it. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you start to rethink what is, quote, typical teen behavior. Rethink. Okay, so the alcohol and drug scene of today. There's a lot of things on here that you've seen for. Alcohol and marijuana, of course, are the most heavily used substances. They were also when we were young, and they still are today. This view graph here is actually even out of date. This is from 2011, and you know that data takes a long time to collate and to get to publication. And these numbers are not even correct for today because the epidemic and use has gotten so much worse. But we'll use this for now as a backdrop. So let's talk a little bit about alcohol and marijuana. Let's just rethink that for a second. I think when we were growing up, it was don't drink and drive. That was the message, the public health message. And there were a lot of programs, the car crash out front, because most people thought that the problem with alcohol is related to driving. As long as you're not driving, then you're okay, because you won't crash and die. But the reality is that actually, of all the deaths related to alcohol, only 32% of them are related to accidents. There's almost 70% that are related to other things that goes on while under the influence. Like homicide, suicide, poisonings, drownings, alcohol poisoning, very big one, fires, falls, not to mention things that go on that don't cause death, but are horrifyingly scarring, like rape, date rape. This all goes on in much higher incidence when people are under the influence. So just rethink alcohol. The law for kids to be 21 before they should drink, there's rationale behind it. I know there's a lot of arguments both ways, but there's a lot of very strong scientific arguments for keeping it at 21. Okay, a word about marijuana. Today, the THC content in marijuana is up to 10 times stronger than from the time we were teens. 10 times stronger. Science has exploded. People have dissected this thing and figured out a way to grow it so that it is potent. It's grown in labs. It's a huge market right now. It will really get you high today. And on top of that, there's hundreds of other chemicals that are in marijuana that come about as part of the growing process that are also very dangerous to the brain. So keep that in mind when you, little pot. Guess what? It is addictive. Yes, it is. People who say it's not addictive, they are dead wrong. The younger you start using, and the more frequently you start using, the higher your chances are for carrying an addiction into your adult life. I know several people as adults who just don't live without marijuana. And it's very rare for young people to ever go to harder substances without first using marijuana. It's called the gateway drug. It's a real term. So these are just some thoughts about alcohol and marijuana. Okay, so what are we going to talk about next? New player on the block, which we've heard about, prescription drugs. We have a prescription drug epidemic going on in this country. Someone dies every 19 minutes from an opioid overdose. These are medicines that you find in your cabinets. These are medicines we all have. or another. It's out there. And a study just recently done this year found that 25% of the teens who were polled in this study said that they have used a prescription medication for a non-prescription reason. And it's a huge jump. It's up 33%. Just forget about the numbers. It's just a huge jump in the last 5 years. So this is all part of showing that the trend is moving, and it's moving, unfortunately, in the wrong direction. So what is prescription drug abuse? It's the use of medication in a way other than as prescribed, or for the experience or feelings elicited. So I think we have an idea what that is. You know, you have a sore throat, so you take the leftover antibiotic. You share your Ritalin thing. You get the picture. That's what prescription drug abuse, and it's rampant. What meds are being utilized the most? Which ones are being abused the most? There are 3 categories that are the most widely used, and by far, opioids and morphine derivatives are the most widely used and abused medications. And these are things that are given for pain. Things like Lupana, OxyContin is the big one, Vicodin, Demerol. These are things that you get when you go to the dentist and you have a root canal, or your kid goes and gets their wisdom teeth out, or an athlete has an athletic injury, knee surgery, foot surgery, toe surgery, back problems. These prescriptions are given out all the time, and unfortunately they're given out in far too great quantity. And physicians are just now getting educated about how to prescribe responsibly. The next one is CNS depressants, and these are things that are used for anxiety and sleep disorders. Valium, Xanax, Klonopin, even your, Lunesta, things that make you sleep and relax, highly used. And then, of course, stimulants. Stimulants, which are supposed to be used just for ADHD, and those are your Adderall, Concerta, Ritalin. What does this do to the drug ladder? That means, how does the progression to stronger medications, how does this change now? Well, back in our day, we know that those who drink, beer and wine and use liquor and marijuana, nothing of Greece, sort of, there's sort of like a big divide between the people who did that and the people who went on to use the harder things. A smaller group, a subset, and they were kind of like those people. Very, very big divide. But that's not the way it is today. And that's why we have this problem. Today there's a new step in the drug ladder, and it's prescription medications. Prescription medications are so easy to get, and because of that, they make it much easier to move on to the harder substances. Now, I don't want anybody to get the opinion that I don't think medication is good. I absolutely think medication is good. I think medication can be life-changing and can change quality of life. And I work for a pharmaceutical company, and I have absolutely 100% endorsed the use of medication, but of course the use of it properly. Using prescription medications for non-medical purposes, very dangerous. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Drugs are easy to get. These prescription drugs are so easy to get. Look at this. Kids, where do they get it? They're polled. Oh, they get it. 60% just go to their medicine cabinet. We leave our medications in our medicine chest, on our nightstand, on our kitchen counter, in the bathroom, in our purse, very accessible. And it seems so bizarre to have to put away medication, but unfortunately we have to put it away. We have to lock it up, get it out of sight and out of access. This is the visual. It's just so hard to comprehend. You know, your daughter's best friend comes over and she asks to go to the bathroom. And it's sad, it becomes suspicious. But what is she doing in there? Kids go into medicine cabinets all the time. They go into your cabinets in your kitchen. Anywhere that you might have it in your drawer. This is what kids are doing. And then what they do is they take whatever they can find and they have what's called a farm party. Show me by hand, who's heard of a farm party? Okay, a few people. It seems insane. They come with their bottles of pills, they dump it into a bowl, and it's like all these pretty colors. It's like popcorn. And they start drinking and they just roll the dice, take a chance. And a lot of these medications are respiratory depressants and suppressants. And if it suppresses it too much, just stop breathing. And that's what's happening all the time. That's what this epidemic is all about. Someone dies every 19 minutes because of this. You're going to combine drugs, and then on top of that, you're going to use alcohol, which is another depressant. We have a recipe for disaster. Again, this is why, this is what's going on. And right now, frankly, it's just been so normalized. And if you don't believe me, look at pop culture, go to the store. These are jerseys that are, football jerseys or jerseys, team jerseys, and it's, Xanax and Adderall, Vicodin. I mean, this is real. It's in the clothing line. And here, look what Urban Outfitters did. They had a set of barware, prescription drug line from Dr. Feelgood, and over here, these are syringes that are used as shooters. See, it says shooter syringes, like a heroin needle. That's what they're using to take shots of alcohol. And this is a shot glass right here, prescription shot. And, refills, sure. Take as many as you can stand. And of course, we have the flask, boozing it. This is part of our culture today. It's completely normalized. So kids don't see the risk. Kids think that these medications are made by companies, declared good by the FDA, sold at a pharmacy, prescribed by a doctor. How could it be bad? Their parents take it. Can't be that harmful. In fact, kids think that their parents would be far more angry if they knew that they were using alcohol or marijuana versus a prescription drug. That's what kids think. They don't perceive it as dangerous. So here's a jump. Actually, opioid prescription medications are the same chemical compound as heroin. Anybody know that? Same thing. So you go into the dentist and you're taking heroin to feel better. The difference is that prescription medications are in time release. And when people use this, they crush it and they either make it into a liquid and inject it into their veins, or they snort it, and you're getting the entire dose at one time. And it's telling your brain to A, not feel pain, and B, stop breathing. And so that's what's happening. And one pill, just one pill can kill. It happens all the time, story after story. They never did it before, they took one time, that was it. Just one pill. So what happens is, once you become addicted, and that's the other thing, these things, opioids are so addictive. And everybody has a different disposition. So, Johnny can use them recreationally and be okay after he uses it once or twice. But You know, Jim, he's got a disposition, something in his DNA, he can't stop. And once you start, and you can't stop, you have to have it. And pills cost money. I think the street value is like 30 or 60 bucks, something like that. Yeah, for about 30 bucks for a pill, for like the OxyContin. But heroin's only $5 a bag. What are you gonna do when you don't have money and you're a kid? After you steal everything, you're gonna use heroin. Which is accounting for the rise in heroin deaths right here in Montgomery County. In Montgomery County, between March and July of this year, there were more deaths due to heroin overdose than there were in the last 3 years combined. And as you're going to start seeing this, because as all the forces out there that start to take these medications back, doctors, pharmacies, all the forces, all the laws, what's going to happen is that those who are addicted are going to start going to heroin because they don't have a choice. Okay, a word about stimulant use. Stimulants are used for ADHD and shouldn't be for too much else. When the same study we talked about earlier, 26%, quarter of the team said it would be okay if they took a stimulant, even if you don't have ADHD, to use it to study. And even worse is a third of the parents thought, yeah, it's okay. It's all right, it'll help them, stay up so they can get better grades. So parents have a perception that it's not dangerous and that it's actually a good thing to use. And if you didn't know this before, stimulants are very dangerous. Use them as prescribed. Don't use them as prescribed. It will elevate your blood pressure, your core temperature. You can go into seizures. You can cause psychosis, bring on a horrible depression, and kill you. And they're addictive. Okay, there's a new kid on the block. Well, actually, it's not new. It's just newer and coming to light. It's a drug called Molly. This has been in the news a lot lately. And I know it's very popular amongst the kids. And you can see the kids like it. Look at the t-shirts. They have they're in it. Molly is just a purer form of ecstasy. And it is a speed-like substance, an amphetamine that has hallucinogenic properties. And kids like to use it when they go to raves. The rave parties, have you heard of raves? The music, and it's really loud music, and it makes them feel, more in tune with the music, and they're feeling real good. They are, again, very dangerous, and it's just part of pop culture, just like those t-shirts. And I have a video here from the news from just a couple weeks back.
Now to the rise of the popular and potent drug that is believed to be responsible for 2 deaths at a major music festival this weekend. It forced the festival to shut down, and there is a lot of questions right now. ABC's Bianca Rodriguez is back with more on that. Bianca, this is about a new designer drug. A lot of people are talking about this. Amy, the deaths are bringing fresh attention to Molly, what is supposed to be a pure version of ecstasy, which has become the drug of the moment. Molly is in not only with kids who like dance music, but also with celebrity 30 and 40-something professionals. For some attracted to the flashing lights and throbbing beats at the Electric Zoo Festival in New York City, the designer drug Molly may have seemed like the perfect accompaniment. But this morning, after 2 deaths and 4 others being hospitalized at the festival, the rapid rise of this new drug is now under the microscope. On Sunday, festival organizers agreed to cancel the final day of the weekend-long event. Last Tuesday at Boston's House of Blues, another person died and 2 others were hospitalized, apparently after the use of Molly.
They believe it's not harmful or addictive, and that there really wouldn't be any adverse side effects, but unfortunately, there can be many.
MDMA, or Molly as it's known in the trendy club dance scene, has become the hot drug of the moment, seemingly embraced by big-name celebrities, even celebrated in song. Miley Cyrus caused a stir with those lyrics in her new short for molecule, is a highly potent powder form of MDMA, one of the ingredients used in ecstasy pills. It is not physically addictive, making it more socially acceptable to everyone from club kids to yuppies. But experts say it's not only not pure, it's dangerous.
They don't know what's in it. They don't know how much to use. It's such a big risk.
But now, after 3 high-profile deaths in under 2 weeks, this morning many are asking if a drug many thought of as designer may also be deadly. And interestingly enough, this drug was discovered in 1914, and it was used as a diet drug. And of course, now it's being used for all the wrong reasons. And it's a conversation parents should really have with their kids now.
Especially in light of this tragedy. Thank you for having me on.
Soon after that, there was another death, a Star UVA student right here in DC, Labor Day weekend. I heard about that on the news. And you're hearing about these because they're happening, the deaths are occurring at an establishment. This is happening all the time in the community, in private homes, but people are ashamed and they don't tell, they don't talk about it. It goes unrecognized. And so, while we're hearing about just a few, just know that it's out there everywhere. Another substance that was not around when we were teens, something called bath salts. Kids are using bath salts to get high. And bath salts are synthetic, man-made chemicals, and they are amphetamines, a form of speed. And they are sold under the names of either bath salt, plant feed, insect repellent, or stain remover. We're not talking about Calgon here. We're talking about something completely different, not that kind of bath salt. And so this one right here, Cloud9, right here, is very popular, and kids ingest them, and it actually creates psychosis, and there's a lot of problems, violent, crazy activities when these kids are taking using these chemicals. Okay, synthetic marijuana. The name of this substance is called K2 or spice. And this is something that's new. They're sold in these little tin-foily kind of packets here. And they're sold as incense. And what they are is plant material that's dried, and the makers of them spray chemicals on the plant material, and it dries. I mean, chemicals, how crazy is that? And then they package it up and they sell it. It sells in like convenience stores and head shops, a cigarette shop, etc. And you know, they're widely available. So kids are using that. And I know that visits to the emergency room have soared because of the use of this product that's out there. So again, this is all to make you aware of what's in the playing field. So let's just go back. So if your teen drinks, goes to a party and drinks, almost 30% more likely to try other drugs. 30% more likely to be a current marijuana user. 40% more likely to use ecstasy. So you have to see, look at the relationship. I'm not just talking about alcohol and marijuana and the usual teen experience, so to speak. You have to look at alcohol and marijuana in terms of what else it comes with. They all sort of go together. Anytime there's a party, if there's one, very likely there's the other. Very likely. And remember that addiction is always possible. Once kids try a substance, the first time it's a choice. But it could be after that it's no longer a choice. Because what happens is the brain starts to recognize the drugs and say, oh, these are like the neurochemicals that I'm supposed to be making for you. But if you're going to put them in our body here, then I'm going to stop making them. Why should I waste my time? And if they don't take the drug, they feel terrible. And it completely changes brain chemistry. The brain doesn't make those natural neurochemicals anymore. And those neurochemicals are completely necessary to think and to behave. Good, bad, or different. They're responsible for how we live. And so if they're not working properly in the brain is damaged. And these people who become addicted are very sick. Their brain is sick. They're sick just like they have cancer or they have another chronic condition, and it requires medical attention. So please know that addiction is not a lack of will to these substances we're talking about. It is not a lack of will or lack of character. Look at underlying issues. Kids use substances for a lot of reasons, and a lot of them is to fit into the crowd, or they like to loosen up because it makes them feel more social, etc. And they have, they feel like it's easier to communicate, but also they might be self-medicating because there's an underlying issue, like depression or anxiety, or there's a learning disability. So if you have a hunch, go after it, chase it, investigate it. The earlier you intervene, the less likely you're going to end up with a problem. Okay, the association between addiction and suicide. It's pretty great. People with a substance abuse disorder are 6 times more likely to commit or die by suicide than people who do not have an addiction. And if you're addicted to opioids, that risk goes up significantly to 15%. My nephew is addicted to opioids. To give you a comparison in terms of numbers, I think everybody knows that smoking causes cancer. And way back when they did a study, they realized that the relative risk might not mean much, but if you smoke, I think it's like 18 cigarettes a day, you are 26 times more likely than a non-smoker to get lung cancer. And I think we all understand that that's true, right? Well, these numbers are not so off. I mean, 26 times, 15 times, there's a great association. Okay. Now I have a video, it's an 11-minute video, and it's about 5 families and their journey through prescription medication abuse. And again, I'm picking this because prescription drug abuse goes along with all of the other things that we're talking about. It's a tough video, I'm going to tell you that sort of up front, but it's very, very powerful.
As a parent, I think most of you are concerned about all these illegal drugs, heroin, marijuana, meth. But you need to understand that the legal drugs are just as dangerous.
Forgetting it from your neighbors, your friends. It's not hard at all.
If people are taking prescription drugs for non-medical purposes, they are not taking medicine. They're doing drugs.
It's easy to start. It's painful to stop.
Prescription drugs are a prescription for a reason. If you take too many of a prescription narcotic, you die.
Chelsea was very well liked by her friends and by her teachers.
Ronnie was going down to Tennessee State to be the next player to come out of Tennessee State.
Joey was extremely popular, just surrounded by friends.
Mark was an athletic, fit-looking kid.
Here, enjoyed talking and debating with any and all. The prescription pain pill problem is a huge epidemic.
This is an epidemic.
This is an epidemic that has infiltrated our young people.
We never had a conversation with Joey about prescription drugs because we truly had no idea that there was any kind of recreational use going on.
The first time I started doing painkillers was when I was 17.
steal pills from my friend's mom. Her stepmom had script for Vicodin. That was like heaven. I went in her room and told Vicodin every day.
He would ask to use the bathroom in other people's homes, and he'd go in there, go to their medicine cabinets and steal prescription drugs.
These medications are available everywhere, in every socioeconomic environment.
Ronnie was a starting halfback, one of our best players. He has several scholarship offers.
Ryan was very popular in the neighborhood.
Ronnie was a neat freak, clean freak, always had his hair braided. When he got into pill use, his mood changed. He changed, like, was it Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde?
Ronnie's appearance really deteriorated, and it was really unlike him.
I said, "Are you doing drugs?" And my son looked at me with these eyes of, "How could you even think of that?"
I was walking up to football practice. My coach was walking towards me. He just had this crazy look on his face. He was thinking when I found your brother. And I was like, to me, I was like goofing. I was like, I didn't know he wasn't missing. So I was like trying to think and like goofing off. And he was like, no, Justin, seriously, he might have found his body. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, whoa. What? He's like, yeah, they discovered a body in an apartment in Telford.
I never thought my son would take prescription drugs without a prescription.
Parents often trip themselves up by asking a simple question, are you using drugs? No. One has to be able to say, I'm seeing some signs here that concern me.
He was a little bit more argumentative. We thought that was maybe hormone.
That person has what we call pinpoint pupils. Literally, the pupils look like a pinpoint.
She slept odd hours.
Why? He was so late. If I wasn't able to get high, I didn't want to get out of bed because, the physical withdrawals.
We were missing tinfoil from the kitchen, missing spoons.
We'd find pens that were cut in half, straws.
There were a lot of charges coming on the credit cards.
We thought that there was somebody stealing money out of her account.
That's probably pretty concluded. There's something going on. Joey was putting percentages of roommates who were spending all the money on medication. Had I known that the medications that they were taking were so dangerous, I would have told them, you're not even going back to that place.
If you feel something's going on, you gotta investigate. I thought it was just a phase. We partied when we were in high school. It's just sort of a phase you go through as you go, experience life. You grow up. I thought he was on that track.
Joey had been found and he was unconscious. He had all these medications that he just received from his doctor. More than likely, he crushed and snorted it. We're just being completely hit blindly by, a situation the police, but what are the neighbors going to think?
Put all of that aside and focus on what's important, as difficult as it may be.
Families can't get too caught up in the idea that, oh, there may be a brass charge or my son or daughter, they could be in jail, they could be in the morgue.
The law saved my life. If my mom had called the cops on me, I don't know where I would be right now.
It was the most difficult thing to do, to call the police on your own track. It was horrible.
I have gone from putting importance on things like what college are you going to get into to just celebrating the fact that she's alive today. She's doing very well. She's clean and sober. She's productive. She's sweet. And I have her back, and I'm thankful. And it's wonderful.
Aaron had spent the night at a friend's, and they found him completely non-responsive. They took him to a local hospital.
He was using Vicodin, which we found out through his toxicology, what was in his blood system.
I witnessed him have 2 heart attacks in ICU. He had staph, he had pneumonia, he went through seizures. The doctor was explaining to us that he was going to die. We held his hands on each side, and we started crying, and he just lay there.
People use the medications in an abusive way, not knowing what the full consequences are, and somebody ends up here.
Within 24 hours, Aaron had opened his eyes.
Parents are the first line of defense in terms of prescription drug abuse.
You gotta sit your kids down, you gotta tell them about the severity of the problem.
There's a number of steps that you can take.
Educate your child and yourself very early.
Anybody who feels that this can't happen to my child,
It could happen to your kid.
make sure that you don't have excess pills in your home.
Keep your head just lined up because you're never going to notice if something's fine.
What my mom does is she has this take-home e-test that I gotta take. No, I wanna keep my mom proud of me. I don't wanna let her down.
You need to have a conversation with them about drug and substance abuse, and you need to include prescription drugs and guide them so they're able to get through their high school years, to college, through their college years, drug-free.
Have this conversation before it's too late to have this conversation.
I know that was a tough movie to watch, but unfortunately that really is truly reality, and we live it. The good news is that we're here tonight to learn what we can do. And there's a lot that we can do. And the first thing that you need to do, and you're already doing it, is to educate yourself. Understand what's going on out there. We have provided you parent toolkits, which hopefully everyone has, and in that toolkit, there are a number of fabulous resources that we've provided, and the white book in there is called A Parent's Guide to the Prevention of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Other Drug Use. This book is such an interesting book, and it's an interesting history. Mimi Fleury was supposed to be here tonight to present this book. She had a family emergency, so I'm going to do my best and try to tell you the same information. This book was created, it started back in 1999, and it started at Georgetown University, Georgetown Preparatory School. The principal there said, Mimi, I know you're president of the PTA. I want you to sit down and come up with some information that would be good for parents about what's going on. And they did, and then they started to work with scientists from NIDA, from Duke, from a lot of the larger agencies, and all of a sudden it's grown through grassroots fashion into circulation. There's 1.9 million of these books out there circulating in 34 countries, and I believe, 34 states and 4 different countries, and it's actually in different languages. And so the purpose of the book, if you open it up, you'll see there's lots of different tabs. And it's to be used in a number of different ways. It's to be used as a conversation starter. You know, it can't provide all the information that you need, but it can certainly start give you information about the topics that are important questions to ask yourself. And the book has been so good that actually, you can see there's lots of different schools that have purchased this book. And there's the tabs. This book won an award just this past year from NIH, the Senator Harold Hughes Memorial Award for Outstanding Leadership that actually went to Mimi for her organization in putting this book together. And it honors the fact that this book has turned good science, hard science, into layman's terms, and it's very usable and legible. So don't let it sit in your packet. Get it out and read it. Nothing is going to, we can all have all the information in the world, but it doesn't do us any good if it does just sit in the book. Get it into your head. Another great resource is the organization that I volunteer for, and that's the Partnership with Drug Free. And there's information in your packet about that. They have an unbelievable website about drug and substance abuse at any phase, prevention or treatment or recovery. And one of the cool things that they offer is a parent helpline. So, and this number again is in your packet. You know, if you get a phone call from the school or from a child's, you know, mother or friend or something, your kid is using, and it's frightening, it's terrifying, you don't know what to do. They can help you walk through. It's on the website, and there's 2 counselors that sit behind the phones, 2 trained counselors. They're fantastic, I know them personally, and pick up the phone, like they can help you. They can help you figure out what's the first thing to do. It's a long process trying to get a child to want to get help, go through help, and then stay clean. This organization can help you. And of course, there's so many other organizations out there. There's other references within the book. One of the last pages, I think, gives you information about other places to look. There's lots of ways to get help. Another thing that you have to do is you have to lock up your medications, and you have to lock up your alcohol. You must. If they have access to it, they're going to use it. Go online, get a lockbox, find a place to put it in your home that is not accessible. I can tell you the lockbox is not going to keep an addict out, but it will certainly deter them from ever starting. You don't want to be in this position. If you don't lock up your meds, and you realize that your child is using, or their friend is using, and you are the source, guess what? That means you can drug dealer. Lock it up. Okay, now, next thing you can do now that you're educated, and you keep getting educated, is you'll talk to your kids. Have a conversation with them, a dialogue with them. Make them aware of your expectations. This has to be more than just, you know, I don't want, drugs are bad, but also, what are your expectations for them? I expect you not to use blank. Once they know that what your expectations are, after you say the words, you're far more likely to not use fact, parents, guess what? You matter. Maybe your teenager doesn't talk that much to you. You have to know that you are the #1 influence in their choice to use. So all the research shows that children whose parents tell them about the risks and tell them what their expectations for use are, these two things, are 50% less likely to use. That's huge. They hear your voice in the back of your head. And that's why parents are so powerful. They're much more powerful than the school and some other places because that message has to come from a person with whom they have a relationship that matters. It's attached to emotions, this is all how the brain works, and behavior, and that's why parents, your work is very important, it's critical. You're the key. In their minds, there is an association between risk, disapproval, and use. So if they think that the risk of using something is high, and they know that you disapprove, then all the studies show your use, the chances of them using goes down. However, if they don't know what the risks are, and they don't know what the expectations are that you disapprove of them using, use goes up. They don't have that voice behind them, guiding them when they're in that situation where they have to make a choice. Now, talking with kids can definitely be tough. There is no doubt, especially about this topic. It's a touchy topic. MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, has done an incredible job of putting together a program. This is another book that you have in your packet, your parent toolkit, about how to talk to kids. And I have here with me in the back, he's hiding, Herman Lamar. He's from MAD, from the Maryland office, and he's here to tell you just a little bit about the book and how to use the book. It's a fantastic resource. I'm telling you, when you read it, you won't put it down. Here's my friend Herman.
I'm not going to jump your time on the hours differently. I just want to briefly describe what Mothers Against Drunk Driving, one of the main initiatives we have going right now. It's called the Power Parents Program. The Power Parents Program is centered around the book that you have in your parents' toolkit. The important thing of this book is research-based methods to talking to your children in regards to underage drinking. Now, obviously, it's going to speak of underage drinking because we're Mothers Against Drunk Driving. That book can be used for talking to your children about underage drinking, narcotic use, prescription drug use, and any other negative behavior. The great thing about the book is not only does it highlight methods of talking to your children about underage drinking, it also highlights different parenting styles and their effect on drug use and alcohol use. I just want to say this in closing, ladies and gentlemen. I understand this is a very hard topic to talk about. Trust me, I'm a 13-year-old myself that just started high school. She does not want to have this topic. She does not want to have this talk. But the thing about it is I explained to the other 3 sessions, this talk will happen. Whether it happens with you, or whether it happens with somebody that you don't really want talking to your kids about this situation, this talk is going to happen. The only question that I have for each of you, and I'm going to ask you this, and I'm going to leave this question in your head. When the talk does happen in regards to alcohol, drug use, prescription drug use, will your point of view be in your children's ear, along with the other nonsense that's coming in their ear? Because I can promise you, the talks that they're going to have with the people that really don't talk to your children about this, they're not going to talk about statistics. They're not going to talk about people dying. They're not going to talk about other negative things that can happen with alcohol and drug use. They're going to talk about the good time. Your children need to hear from you. They need to understand the real dangers, the real effects, the real results of using alcohol too early in life, and also prescription drugs without prescription, and also illegal drugs. Thank you for your time, and enjoy what you're doing. Thank you.
So when I saw that book for the first time this summer, I You know, it talks about how you parent, what your communication style is. And what's important to remember is that not only is what you say, the message, important, but how you say it is just as important. Those two things. So this book is great reference. You'll probably go through there and you'll be able to say, oh, I think this person is this kind of parent, this person is this kind of parent, and look at their kid. And you're going to see that there's just a lot of information in there. Please don't let it sit in the packet. These materials, not only are they expensive and the PTA put out a lot of money for them, they're brilliant and they'll help you. Okay, you also need to look for the signs of substance use and abuse. And if you suspect it, you have to act immediately. And we're not talking about that tonight. That's not the topic for tonight because that would take a whole nother hour. But the PTSA is sponsoring a conversation about this on October 16th. We're going to have an eviction counselor here to help you figure out what it is that you should be looking for and where you can look, for example, in your child's room. There's information in your packet about it, but it's much better to talk about this with a specialist and you can bring your individual concerns. I think PTA said they're going to even sponsor dinner that evening. So I hope you guys mark your calendar for October 16th. If you have interest in learning about this, and sharing your personal experiences or any questions you may have is a great opportunity. This is what's in your packet. And so if you suspect and you have an inkling there might be an issue, you need to get your child evaluated. There's a lot of ways to go about getting an evaluation. You can go to a private doctor, a private psychiatrist, etc. You should know right away that in Montgomery County residents, there is an organization, part of the Department of Health and Human Services, SASTA, which is Screening and Assessment Services for Children and Adolescents. With a phone call, you can have a free consultation. This is, I think they're located in Rockville, is that right? And actually, SASTA is the place that your child will be referred to should they be identified as having an issue or using in school, and you get a call from the administrators, that is exactly where you will be sent. So know that it's a free resource for you. And of course, if a diagnosis of addiction is made, you must get medical help. I mean, you wouldn't treat, try to treat cancer by yourself, or lupus, or another type of chronic condition. You must get good, evidence-based medical help. One thing I do want to point out is going through treatment and recovery is not an easy process, and I believe that my friend Patty is here. Here she is. Patty is a coach in terms of helping people and families live through the recovery process, because there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. Patty, if you want to just raise your hand. So if anybody wants or needs or would like to talk to Patty, she's here. Okay, so the next steps. Obviously, you're here, you've already done it. You're getting educated. You're on the road, at least. And you guys are the best educated parents in Montgomery County. Because this is not happening in a lot of other schools. I can promise you that. So get educated and talk and talk and talk to your friends and to your children and listen. Learn to listen to what they have to say. Try to read their body language. You'll read this book and you'll learn to talk to them on their level where they are to get the information. And of course, attend the PTSA workshops that we have coming up. Again, on October 16th, we're going to be talking about the signs of abuse and what to do. And then in November 20th, where we'll be having dessert. We never have meetings without food, except tonight, we just had candy. On November 20th, we'll be talking about substance use in the developing brain, and it's a very fascinating topic. And I think there will be someone actually here coming in from the National Institute of Drug Abuse to lead that discussion. Really fascinating, and it will absolutely give you more understanding about why we need to rethink what we're doing, what we're approving, what our perceptions are about what our kids are doing. Okay, now I would like to introduce my friend Jeremy Smalley from the Montgomery County Police Department. And Jeremy, you are going to tell me you're going to talk about this law, aren't you? All right. Okay, great.
All right, again, my name is Jeremy Smalley. I work with the alcohol unit here in Montgomery County. Rachel and I have been talking a lot over the last 6 or 7 months. I've been to her house, talking to parents there, and she calls us, we get back information all the time. So this is great that you guys came. It's awesome that you came to take care of your kids. A couple things I just want to, before I get into law, I want to just piggyback on something she said. If you go back to the K2 Spice thing, there's lots of names for it, Food Snacks, Diablo, Dopey. It is illegal now. It is federally legal. July of this year, you can't possess it, you can't sell it, you can't have it, you can't do anything with it. The scary thing about that drug is it's called synthetic marijuana, like you said, but it's not marijuana. It could act like depressant, it could act like PCP, it could act like cocaine, it could act like anything. You never know what you're going to get. So it's a very, very dangerous drug, and it's very concerning to us because the kids think that it's legal where it's not anymore. And it's hard to test for. But one of the good tests that you can get is you go to CVS and get a hair test. That is the one test that we found is pretty beneficial for finding those drugs. And you can go get your kids' clothes and take a piece of hair out of their clothes and put it in this test kit, send it out to Virginia, and it'll tell you like the life history of what your kids are doing. So that's a good test to have. I think the really good ones are $65 or $70. But if you have a concern, there might be somewhere you want to go. Like I said, you can just take it out of the laundry and find out what's going on. They should not be on the shelf. They already need to call us because it is illegal. They're not supposed to have it. They're not supposed to sell it. They can't. It's a federal law since July of this year.
What these people are doing though is what will happen is the laws will outlaw a certain chemical, and then they'll go ahead and use a different chemical. So if it's, I don't know enough about the law, but that's how they keep ahead of the law, by just changing the chemical.
That is what that we put up. It's a game. It's always going to be a game. We're never going to catch up to them. But for right now, you see it on the, it's not supposed to be on the show. So if they have it, it's illegal. Call us. We'll take care of it. And we're not here to tell you. I mean, we really aren't mean people. We really are here to take care of your kids. We go to all the parties in Montgomery County, as many as we can go to. We do with a lot of kids. We come to your this is 10th grade parent. We're coming into your classroom this year in October to talk to your kids about alcohol awareness, drug awareness. We do a whole day here at the school. We've been doing it for years, so we try to educate. The reason we want to educate is because we don't want to have the stories that happened with Brewer a couple years ago, or down in Churchill a couple years ago, or what you saw up there. We don't want that to happen. That's why we do what we do. A couple things you can do with your kids is the easiest way to find out what's going on with your kid is look at their eyes. Their eyes, as you hear all the time, is a window to the soul, okay? If you see that their eyes are completely dilated and you can't see the color anymore, it could possibly be a stimulant, it could be a hallucinogen, it could be marijuana. All those things dilate pupils. So when your kids come home, they don't want to make eye contact, they grab their face and look at their eyes. If there's constricted pinpoint pupils, it's a narcotic. It's going to be heroin, or it's going to be Vicodin, or it's going to be a narcotic. If you see that, ask some questions and find out what's going on. Don't just let them go to their room and go to bed. Another thing we want to talk about is cell phones. Who pays the bill? You guys get a cell phone bill? That cell phone is your cell phone. It's not their cell phone, it's your cell phone. As much as you want to give them their privacy, which you should do, if they have a code on their phone, you find out the code. And you get the code. If they don't give you the code, you shut the phone off. That's the simple way to do it, okay? Especially with the new iPhones coming out, they're going to have that fingerprint recognition stuff. Grab their hands and force them to put it on the fence and get to that phone, okay? Their rooms. Who pays the mortgage of your house? You pay the mortgage. That room is your room, okay? You go in that room. You look through their drawers. You may think you're invading their privacy. You're not. You're being a good parent, okay? They'll get mad at you. Let them get mad at you. the long run, you could save their life, so you don't end up like the pictures that Rachel was showing. A couple other things, if you have some issues, you think there's something going on, a good resource is your school resource officer. Here is Dr. Conley. She's been here for 6 or 7 years, I think. She's great, she's awesome, she gets along with kids very well. I guarantee they tell her stuff they don't tell you. So if you have an issue or you think that they need help, get a hold of Dr. Conley, get a hold of, Ms. Bolden, and they can help you. And Montgomery County is great. There's a lot of things that Montgomery doesn't do well, but they take care of the kids, okay? There's a ton of coalitions out there. There's the Keeping You Safe Coalition that's been around for years. There's the Prevention Alliance that's just starting up. They're out there to help you and give you education, just like Rachel's doing. What she wants to talk about is posting laws, okay? Alcohol parties. We go to underage drinking parties every single weekend. On the way here, on the radio, there was a field party up in, I think it was up in Clarksburg, that happened to the other guys in my unit were all going to. Because we get tips all the time. We get friends that don't get invited. It's all over Facebook. Look at your kids. If your kids have Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, make sure that you're their friend. Okay? Don't let them keep you out. If they use the internet in your house, who pays the bill? You pay the bill. It's your computer. It's your Facebook account. It's your Instagram account. The one thing you need to know about that stuff, it's not private. They can say they're private, they don't let their friends in. That is public record. Anybody can find how it's on Facebook or Twitter. And I guarantee you, there's people that are for your kids' friends that they don't know about. Okay? There's ways to get in there. There's ways that we find out things. There's Facebook recognition that the colleges use, that the businesses use. If they just put this program in your computer, it searches the internet for your kids, their faces, and it finds out what they do. It was 2 summers ago, we actually had an underage drinking party that was here at Wooten, that we chartered all the kids at because of Facebook. They posted all their kids doing keg stands and doing shots and doing all sorts of things all over Facebook. And it was out there, and some parents showed it to us. We went to all their houses, and we were able to charter it. Okay. Now again, it's not just a Wooten problem. We go to every single school all over Montgomery County. This is a major problem in the county. We're not just picking you out. We just have a good parent here. It's allowing us to come to the schools and talk to you guys, to educate you guys. And good principal as well. So the hosting laws. When can someone under 21 drink? Does anyone know that? When someone under 21 is allowed to have alcohol legally? Number one, if you're having dinner or if you're having some dinner at your house and you want to give your son or daughter a glass of wine or a beer, you're allowed to do that. You can't let them get drunk. But you want to it's in the books that you're allowed to give them 1 beer at dinner, or if they're having some religious thing, some religious event, you're allowed to let them drink. Again, you can't get them drunk, but you're allowed to do it. The other time is they're allowed to, a waitress or a waiter clean stuff up off the table. That's the only time they're allowed to be in possession of alcohol. Okay? Any other time, it's illegal. The way the law is written in Maryland is if you're at an underage drinking party and say there's a keg in the middle of the room and there's cups all over the place, just the knowledge that there's alcohol in that room makes your son or daughter that's under 21 in possession of that alcohol. Just the mere fact that they know it's there, they're in possession. So when we go to a party and we give everybody a PBT or what's called breath test, even if they're a 0-0 on a PBT, but they know the alcohol's there, they can be charged. Okay? And a lot of times they are, a lot of times they aren't. It just kind of depends on the situation. For you guys, we've had a lot of parties in the last year or so that the parents, they think they're doing a good thing. They're having kids come into their house and say, well, you know what, I'm going to have my kids drink here with their friends. They're safe. I'm going to take all the keys. I'm going to make sure they don't go anywhere. It's not a good thing. It's not safe. It's illegal, number one. And I guarantee you, even if you take their keys, your kids don't go to bed when you go to bed at 1:32 in the morning. Okay? They go to bed, after you go to bed, 3, 4, 5 hours later, what do the kids do once they don't live there? They leave. You know they're not around anymore. They get in the car, they walk, they do whatever, they get out of the house. I don't want to tell you a lot of war stories, but I was at a party now 3, 4 months ago. I got there, I'm sitting in an unmarked car, I see 5 or 6 kids come outside, obviously intoxicated, and they all get into the car. What I do is, before they drive on the road, I stop the car. Every single one of those kids was 16 years old, and they're all over 0.08. Every single one of them was getting in that car. I asked because I said, does anyone home from the house? I said, yeah, my parents are home. I said, they know you're drinking. He said, yes, they know I'm drinking. I go to the door, I said, do you know these kids are drinking? He said, yeah, they're having a party downstairs, there's about 30 of them. I said, does anyone even want to order from? He's like, nope, just me. He's like, they weren't going to leave. I was like, sir, they were just in the car. All 6 of them were in the car. getting ready to start it, and I stopped them so they didn't drive down the road. What would have happened? I don't know. But 16-year-old boys and girls that drunk driving a car, it's going to end in disaster. It's not going to be a good thing. I can tell you stories that we have for crashes with kids. I mean, we could go on for 3, 4, 5 hours with alcohol stories, okay? And it's not just alcohol. Doing drugs and driving, it's the same thing. You're impaired, you get in car accidents, same thing happens, okay? Just because they may think marijuana is not just as bad as alcohol, it is as bad as alcohol. It impaired is just as bad, and especially with the new laws, and they're trying to legalize it a little bit, it's just going to get the problem, it's going to get worse, okay? For you, if you have a party at your house, and you let your kids drink, it's a big problem. When we get there and we're able to prove that you guys were hosting the party, that you knew, and all that means is you had knowledge that someone under the age of 21 was drinking in your house. You don't actually have to take the beer over them and pour it down their mouth. Just the mere fact that you know that they're drinking in your house makes you furnishing alcohol to a minor, okay? And some of the fines that we throw out there is kind of scary. The first kid in the house is $2,500. Every kid after that is $5,000, okay? We've written citations up to over $150,000 to parents and to kids. Now, the majority of the time, are the parents out? No, they're not. But it's been getting worse and worse and worse. We're seeing a lot of parents having 13, 14, 15, 20 kids at their house and saying, oh, they're just drinking a little bit. It's okay. They're not going to leave. And that's where we try to educate them a little bit. And that's where we start finding them. And then it goes to court. State's attorneys get involved. Defense attorneys get involved. Judges get involved. You have to line set. All right? The other thing you have to worry about parties is any kid that leaves your house, you are civilly liable for. If they leave your house and they get into a car accident or they run into a tree or they do some kind of damage, you're liable for $10,000 civilly for anything that kid does after they left your house. Okay, so if you allow someone to drink to your house and they leave and they do some kind of nonsense and get in some trouble, it comes back on you. Okay? I'm not trying to scare you guys. I'm not trying to be the big mean police officer up here. I'm just trying to educate you. So if your kids come up to you and say, no, I want to have 16 or 15 kids over for my birthday party, say, you know, you can come over, but there's no alcohol. And you need to be down in the basement with, you don't have to be down there 24/7, but you need to be down in the basement a couple of, once for every half hour, once every hour, and circle the room, and look in the bathrooms, look under the sink, look in the closets, and look for that bottle of liquor, those beer cans, look in those cups. It may not just be Coke. It may be Coke and vodka or Coke and rum, maybe something crazy that they mixed up. Water bottles. It's not always water. If they have a cooler of water bottles and a couple of them aren't frozen, it's probably not water. It's probably vodka. All right, so take a sniff. When your kids come home at night, I encourage you to be awake when they come home and give them a big hug when they get home and take a big sniff. Smell that, not because they stink, but because you might smell that marijuana, you might smell that cigarette smoke, you might smell that booze, and it gives you concern to look at their eyes, look at those dilated pupils, or their constricted pupils, and then you can investigate further and look into their rooms, look into their cell phones. Let them have their privacy, but don't let them have their privacy. Okay? That's pretty much all I want to cover tonight, because I can go on for another couple hours. But if your kids come to health class in October, we spend 45 minutes doing a whole presentation and do lots of this stuff.
Jeremy here, and I wanted to open up to the audience to see if there's any questions. If we have any questions, I'm going to run over with the microphone.
I've been to hospitals. I've done it quite regularly. So I know what it was like. Just the opposite said, it's not something you really want to talk about. But you see the pain, and they were our kids. So yes, there's an issue. But it's a parental issue more than it is a school issue. Who knows the student better than anybody? You do. Who's their first teacher? You are. So one of the things I'm saying is use us as a resource as well, because we do know how to get parents help. And if you do identify some issues, don't do what most of us try to do sometimes when we're in that denial mode, because these are good kids. It's not they're bad kids. It's not you being a bad parent. And that's what I think hangs us up on. Oh, my kid wouldn't do that. Well, I've got 2 kids. My son was involved. I got a knock on the door 2:30 from a Montgomery County police officer. I thought my son was in bed. Yes, ma'am.
This is really just a question about advice. If we're gonna let our children know that, you know, here's what the risk is and here's our disapproval, then if they ask, hey mom, did you ever do it? Just because they want to know, is it better to say no to show disapproval? Or is it better to say, well, maybe just a little, so at least they can see that maybe you're on their.
You know what? That is the best question, and that is in the book from that. And I can tell you what the book that you have in there, what they recommend is that you be honest. They said that, you know, be honest, but you have to, what you're trying to tell them is that we know a lot more now, and I am not happy with, you know, what I did, and if it did affect my brain, maybe I could have been a different person. So it actually gives you very good advice in what to say, because teens can see right through you. And the idea is to keep the discussion on them. This is not about you, it's about them. And that you made poor choices, and that there's a lot more science now, and we know a lot more now. And it's much different time now, and it's much more dangerous. Yes. Nothing.
But, you know, I have a son, and I live with a senior, and, you know, he's going to the party, and not the fast crowd, he's, you know, pretty needy. What are you supposed to do? They don't go to parties. And he had, you know, he didn't drink for a long time. And his friends would go down.
That's why this is.
We don't want to go off to college, not, you know, doing, you know, something sort of normal in a safe environment. You know, so we're all talking about don't let your kids do stuff. Our kids are ready to go, I'm just so now. I don't know what you do.
This is why we're doing this. This is a community problem, because what your son and your family is experiencing is horribly painful. And where's the solution lie? It lies in the community. It lies with the other parents of, there's lots to do. There's lots, you know what? There are a lot. You know what? This is a big movement in the prevention field, is to come up with ideas about what you can do, what your kids can do, what they do together, and it'll be cool. And you know what? It's cool to not use, and that's what the message that has to get out. But it takes every single one of us to stand up and say to our friends, even though they're our friends, you know what? My child is electing not to do this, and you know what? It's illegal, and you need to join the right bandwagon. You need to get on the right. You need to follow the law, and you need to do what's best for their brain. And it takes courage on the part of every single one of us to stand up for our kids and to stand up for our community. And once people start talking about it, Jamie, once you start talking to your friends and or the parents of the friends' parents, it's up to you to help them change their mind. And you know what? Don't feel bad. In this book, it talks about it. Don't push your kid to do something they don't want to do. They know better. They know better.
Some people can't hear the question.
The question was, if there's parties every weekend and your friends are going and you know, you've got to go, otherwise you're ostracized. Otherwise you're not part of the group. And that's a good question again, but why are there so many parties in the community? Once again, it's not a kid problem, it's an adult problem. So what you've got to say is, if there's parties every weekend, the kids are going to go. So, as a community, you say, we're not going to throw parties every weekend. It doesn't mean you say you don't go to the occasional party, but there's parties every weekend. There's parties sometimes during the middle of the week. And the kids aren't, the kids are throwing it, but the parents are the ones that are allowing it, or they're going away without giving proper supervision to the community. So we've got to talk to other parents. So if there aren't as many parties, then there's not as many kids going. So I think that's part of it. But there are so many choices. What's wrong with going to a movie with 5 or 6 friends? What's wrong with going to a ball game? What's wrong with just hanging out and watching something on the TV? What's wrong with going to a museum? I mean, I'm not trying to be Pollyanna-ish, but if you really want to come up with some interesting things, you can. And you'd be so surprised, once kids get into some of that stuff, they love it. But the issue is there are too many parties. I mean, our kids travel too. They go to, they go to the Whitman, the QO, the Churchill parties, and some of those kids are going to our parties. There's a kind of super group that just travel all over the place. There are too many parties. I mean, the opposite is he could go to 3 or 4 every weekend, and that's not even touching the surface. That's the issue. Stop the parties. I can't do that. If you've got a party next door, get it shut down. That's another thing, be an advocate. There's a party down the road, I know there's drinking. Call the police, get it shut down. You've got to actually then be advocates for that, not just wish for it. I mean, it's not easy to do because your house down the road might figure out you call. You say, yes, I did. And if you have another party, I'll call again. If you're that serious about it, guys, that's what you've got to do. Not roll your eyes and say, well, maybe I'll try and get my kid not to go to that party. I mean, that's the only thing I can suggest because it's a tough one.
As a parent of several children, some of them are older, they can tell you that this is a game that they play. They would say, oh, you're just putting so much pressure on me, and other kids are having to stop. Well, guess what they tell their parents? They're saying, that they're, so you really have to be in touch with other parents. They're going to a party. We have this principle that we always call the parents of the household that our daughter was going to, and the worst was that they weren't there. If the parents weren't there, there was no, we just didn't let them go. If the parents were in the house, we were sure that we talked to them and, had some level of confidence about if they're on top of this thing. So, just that.
Yeah, there's an anonymous tip line that you can text the police if you have an idea of something's going on. And we'll put that on the website. And I think we'll also come up with ideas of substance-free things that kids can do. And that's actually on the partnership website. There's a fabulous list. And, your child knows the right thing to do. You embrace them 100%. They know what's best because they probably see what's going on out there. Oh, and here's another thing. This is a big fallacy perception that everybody drinks. Everybody's doing this. They come to school on Monday and hear those stories about what's going on over the weekend, and it seems like, oh my God, if I didn't do that, I'm like such a loser. Well, guess what? It's only a fraction. Kids have a perception, and parents have a perception, that everybody drinks. Honest to God, when I learned this, I was like, say what? Because you just think that that's what they're doing, but that's not true. It's a perception that we have as parents and the children have. But in reality, the data shows that is not true. So don't you dare feel bad if your kid is not doing that, because there's a whole lot of little kids that are not doing it either.
I just want to make a couple of suggestions. One is when you have these conversations with your when you have these conversations with your parents, with your children, make part of it helping them understand the difference between handling or ratting on someone versus helping a peer or friend of theirs that's in trouble. Because I know with my daughter that was a big deal for her to make that distinction. The other thing is don't be afraid to interface with your children's friends, parents. They'll be making
and this is a really great point, and I'm so glad you brought that up, that if you hear, we live in a community, and I don't think of it as like a village, and we really need to help each other. If you hear through your child or some other means that there's something going on with somebody else's child, stick your neck out. Do something about it. It's tough to make that phone call to that parent, but who cares if they're angry? If you have evidence that that's the truth, you're giving that parent an opportunity to help their child. And if you are the one receiving that phone call, at first it does feel like a slam against your parenting. I beg of you to try to be open-minded. Because if you're not listening, I know sometimes it's, you think it's unfathomable. You can't possibly be talking about, my kid. Be open-minded, because they might be helping you save your kid's life. Or save them from a life of addiction. Please, we have to, this is a community problem. We have to work together as a community.
Is that legally okay?
What's that?
Call a parent?
Is it legally okay to call a parent to tell them that you know something?
And they sue you for slander? That's what I've always been afraid of.
I don't know. I can't fathom that's against the law.
So what I mean, look, you call the parent and say, I think you're kidding. You can call the brother.
You know what else? You know what else? You know what you can do? You can call the police, or when one of the other ministers was here, he said, call the school. We'll help. We'll help. If you have information, call the school, and we'll help.
So it's better not to directly call yourself?
I think it's absolutely fine to call yourself. You have to be prepared that there may be backlash. But isn't it worth it to do that than to have blood on your hands because something happens to that kid?
Slander is if you say something to someone other than their right. You're calling another kid's parent. That's not slander. You're talking to them directly. You call me and tell me about her parent. That's
Right. Thank you. Yeah, help each other. And again, if you get that call, be open-minded.